Hi there, welcome back to Created and All here on YouTube. I have a fun experiment I get to show you today. I used this amazing casting resin to mold or to cast some molds for you. And then I'm going to show you a sneak peek of the project that I did with one of the molds. It is this really pretty sign. And the sunflower is what we created with that resin. So I'm going to show you that at the end, but let's see how we used the resin to create some castings.
Hey everybody, it's Joey Bailey with Created in Awe. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I do hope you enjoy seeing what we're doing today. And if so, you can subscribe for more and also see live tutorials on Facebook. Here we go. All right, so we're going to take a look at this amazing casting resin and how it works. So the instructions are actually not very complete. I had to watch several videos online. It tells you a couple of tips there on the side. And then on the back, it does tell you to measure the 2 parts of liquid into equal amounts into a plastic cup, pour slowly into the mold, and allow to cure approximately 10 minutes, and then remove from the mold, and that was it. So I'm going to show you how I did it. I used a couple of molds from IOD, and these molds are really nice because they have an extra ridge lip around the edges of those molds that helps to hold the liquid inside. So those 2 gray ones are both by Iron Orchid Designs. The sunflower one I believe is available currently. The one that looks like labels is not. This pink mold is actually a fondant mold that I got from Hobby Lobby. And then the last one is a very flimsy silicone mold from Amazon. So I wanted to try each of these to see how they were going to work. So let's open up our box and our packages and start mixing up our liquids. I'm going to show you that. There are 3 little measuring cups, and I believe they measure in amounts up to 30 milliliters. There's a couple of popsicle sticks, and then there are the 2 parts of the liquids that you will mix together. So there is side B, and then the other one is side A. You simply use separate cups to measure equal amounts and pour them into something else, of course, that will hold everything. So I got myself a plastic cup that's clear so we could see what it's going to look like. There's my plastic cup. And unfortunately, when I decided to pour these into the smaller measuring cups that came in the box, my hands were off camera. I apologize. So I started with part A. And it does have a little foil seal that I had taken off of the top. So I poured out 30 milliliters in that smaller measuring cup. And you can't see it right there. I apologize. I had to get it up to my eyes to see the level of that 30 milliliter or the measurement, whatever you decide to do. So I had to bring it up to eye level. Poured it into the cup slowly, and then I poured that 30 milliliters in, and I figured with the multiple molds I wanted to do, that wouldn't be enough. So I measured another 20 milliliters of side A into that little cup, and then I poured it into the clear cup, as you're going to see here in just a second. I am doing this in real time so you can see that I am taking my time and I'm going slowly with this. Then I just turned it upside down over on a paper towel, and I went to a separate cup and I poured side B, and I repeated the same process, 30 milliliters and then 20 milliliters. So I'm going to skip ahead. That's the last little bit of side B going into that clear cup, and you can see it is turned kind of a milky white, and I'm going to start stirring it with that popsicle stick, and you will see in real time how it changes from that milky white to back to a clear. You can see that kind of haze is fading as I stir it. I'm going to keep stirring until it looks like the haze is completely gone. So it just takes, less than a minute, I think. I don't know, I have to look back at the time. Want to make sure that haze is completely gone. Everything is stirred. And then I am going to put that popsicle stick aside. Kind of wiped it off on the edge. Set that aside, and I'm going to start slowly pouring into the sunflower mold. I don't want it to splash, so I'm starting with a tiny bit, and I'm working around it to get into the cracks and crevices, going into the middle, And I am going to stop short of filling the entire mold so that, because it will kind of level itself out. So I'm waiting for a second. Well, I need a little bit more. I'm going to give it a little bit of time and see if it kind of levels into those outside edges of the sunflower. It looks like it did. So I moved over to the next mold. I'm going to speed this up. Same process. Slowly I did this. Poured some in. I'd stop short and I would add if I needed to. I went over to the butterfly. Same thing. I had a little bit left, so I'm going to do the little butterfly, and then I really didn't have enough to do anything else. So I stopped there. Look at the sunflower and the first mold on the labels and see how they're turning white. This is real time. This is happening within a couple of minutes of pouring that liquid into the mold. So at this point, I'm going to skip ahead so you can see what has happened in just the first couple of minutes. And now we are going to skip ahead to about the 5-minute mark. So it's almost completely white. You can see there are some areas that are still showing through to the gray part of the mold. Those are the thinner areas. And we have skipped ahead again now to the full 10, well, actually only 8 minutes. This is 8 minutes because I wanted it to be soft when I pulled it out of the mold. So the first one I'm doing is one of those labels, and I'm going to show you. You pull the mold away from it, and then it will pop right out, and you can see it's rigid in the middle, but those edges are actually still very soft. So I'm going to show you here in a second. I'm playing with it a little bit. Kind of, it bends in the middle a little bit. It's more rigid there, but the edges are much softer. So I'm going to carefully lay it back down so it can continue to harden on a more of a flat surface. So now I'm going to move over to the butterflies. I'm going to pop that little one out first. It is pretty much completely rigid. And then the larger butterfly, these are much thicker than that label mold. So as it's hardening, it is hardening much more firm than that label did. There's a couple of little pieces that kind of hung over the edge. It's called flashing, and while it's still soft, you can kind of pick those off. All right, so now I'm checking that sunflower mold. One thing that's really interesting is the resin feels warm while it is curing. So it feels very warm. I just kept feeling it to see if it was going to get cooler, and it didn't until it was completely hardened. But as I took that sunflower mold out, I can feel it is very soft. Okay, there is some give to it in the middle. The edges are soft, but it's of course been curing longer than the other ones, so it's a little more rigid than the others were when I took them out. So I'm going to let that lay flat. And we are going to do another set of molds here in just a second, but here's the first ones. So I did another set of those labels, as well as that softer mold from Amazon. And I didn't realize till after I was working with it, that softer mold, I mean, it's from somebody who just created a mold from an object. So it is kind of amateurly made, but it wasn't level. It wasn't flat. So I had to put something underneath it because all of that resin wanted to just pour over the edge on that first front corner. So anyway, let me tell you, on these labels, they came out just like the first ones. Rigid, mostly a little bit soft if you take it out at about the 8 to 9 minute mark. If you waited past 10 minutes, it should be fully rigid. I didn't quite have enough. See how soft that one was? See, that was at about the 8 minute mark there. And so I am just able to kind of pull off the excess off those edges. And that last one, I really didn't even have enough, not that one, that one. Okay, we'll go to this one. This one was complete. I'm going to take it out of the mold and set it aside. And then the last one, it's still very soft, you can see, and I did not have enough resin for it. So I decided I'm going to go grab a pair of scissors real quick and actually trim it down, because it's a label that has an extra border edge around it. So I'll grab those scissors here in just a minute. But let's take a look at this kind of really messy one that looks like a frame. I'm going to have to carefully pull it back from the mold. There are several areas of this mold that are very, very thin, and it makes it very delicate because it's coming out of the mold soft. It might have been easier if I had waited for it to completely harden past the 10-minute mark. But I went ahead and started taking it out. I'm just checking each area. Now that corner is the one where it overflowed, so I have a lot of excess on the edge, so I'm having to pull the excess away from it as I'm pulling it out of the mold, if that makes sense. So here we go. We've got it all loosened in these areas, and there we go. I'm having to pull that excess off. I know this is taking some extra time, but I want you to see this in real time and up close so you can kind of see what to expect. I'm using my thumb to scratch off that excess resin that's on the top of the outside of the border, just pulling it off while it's soft. See, this is actually better to do before it hardens all the way so you can get this excess off. That's a good tip. So go ahead and get all that excess off. I know it's taken a minute, and then I will kind of demold, they say, the rest of that frame shape. So I'm carefully working around the edges. I'll go ahead and skip ahead so you can see the next part. So we're going to go ahead and pull it out. And there's still more I have to do. There's several areas of the mold that are thin, and actually, in order to have the frame look the way you want it to, it needs to be completely clear. So I'm going to pick off the excess around the edges, and then I'm going to go into those areas that should be holes. You see some of them there are holes, and then others it still has resin in it. So I'm just using like a nail, because I just had it sitting beside me, and I'm kind of breaking through those parts of the resin that should have been cleared out. So that was not quite a success. I'll probably use it, but I'm much better off using those labels, even the butterflies and the sunflower. So here we go. I grabbed those scissors, and it is still soft, so I'm able to cut through it. If you wait past, I would say, maybe to 15 minutes, it's going to be completely rigid, and you're not going to be able to cut it. You can sand it, but you would not be able to cut it. However, you can make these molds or these castings soft again if you apply some dry heat. So a heat gun or a very hot hair dryer. If you apply that heat to the casting for about a minute, it will soften it up, and you might be able to cut it, but I would recommend doing it right away as soon as you demold it. So there are the pieces that we created, and I'm going to be using these later on. I'm going to play with these. I can sand those rough edges a little bit if I need to, but I want to show you what we did. I used the sunflower to create our project. Here's what we made with the sunflower. It came out, the casting, with a really nice matte finish that you can paint with just about any kind of paint you like. I used some chalk paint on this, and then I sprayed it with a clear matte spray sealer, and I was able to glue it right onto this board with a stencil that I had applied to it. I did this project on my Facebook page if you want to take a look at that. I'll put a link to it in the description down below, as well as links to all of the supplies that were used in this project and with the resin. The resin itself I got at Hobby Lobby. You can also get it, I think, on Amazon and a couple of other places. Thanks again for watching Created in Awe here on YouTube.